and pain specialist who is a board certified in behavior and cognitive psychology with the American Board of Professional Psychology, and a fellow of the International Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Association. He was the director of pain psychology at the major teaching hospital and has held multiple clinical appointments at numerous hospitals. He's the author and co-author of over 7 books on pain management and hypnotherapy, and has written over 100 professional journal articles and chapters. He has treated thousands of patients with chronic pain. It's a leading expert in the field. And please allow me to introduce you to Dr. Eimer.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. Let's make this evening, which is packed full of information of value to you for having come out this evening. I come down here from Philadelphia. I moved down here, I've relocated down here, so I didn't actually fly down to give this presentation. But you know, I typically say in my presentations in the evening in Philadelphia at this time of year, boy, oh boy, I better make this worthwhile for you guys for venturing out in the cold, the ice, and the snow. But that's certainly not the case here. So I have 3 questions to ask you, and we'll proceed from there. The first question, and they're up here on the PowerPoint screen. Do you struggle with constant pain from an injury, an autoimmune disease, or a musculoskeletal issue? You don't have to answer that out loud, just answer to yourself. Have you tried everything? Oh, better yet, no, raise your hand if you struggle with number 1, a chronic pain from a disease, an illness, an accident. Okay. Number 2, have you tried everything to manage your pain with little or no success or not enough success? Let me see a show of hands. Not enough success. Okay. And have doctors told you you have to learn to live with your pain? Okay. Well, if you said yes to any of these questions, you're in the right place this evening. All right. So today I'm going to share with you 3 things. 3 things. First, I'm going to tell you a synopsis of my story. Okay. Then I'm going to mention and debunk 3 destructive myths about chronic pain. And lastly, I'm going to give you an added bonus, so it'll help you to get off to a fast start in managing your pain better. I want to just begin by simply saying to you, or asking you actually, raise your hand if you have chronic pain. If you're here, those of you that are not raising your hand,
it's not chronic, but it's there.
Okay.
You know, it's not.
So persistent pain. Yeah, I guess, you know. Okay, all right. You might be here out of just because you want to just learn something, but or if you're here because you want to help somebody else that you live with that's a significant other that has persistent pain. Okay, all right. Let me just tell you briefly about my story. I'm going to get into it a little bit more, but basically I was a mess. I was sitting in presentations, suffering from pain, and thinking that, you know, I'm not going to really learn anything that's really going to be of value. I'm just going to watch somebody talk about their stuff and basically aggrandize themselves. Now I'm going to tell you about what my turning point was, where something changed that allowed me to actually make a change in my life for the better as far as getting pain relief. And then I'm going to talk to you about how that turning point allowed me to be where I am today. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay. Let's mention what myths can do to your life. Okay, there's obviously, you know, a myth is a misconception. It's an erroneous idea that in the popular culture, people believe it to be true, but it's not true, you know. And there are myths about different things, certainly, but some myths can really mess up your life, right? Because myths about, let's say, a medical condition that you might have, you know, for example, I have diabetes type 2, and if I were to follow some erroneous ideas about how to deal with diabetes type 2, it could lead me to an early grave, okay? When it comes to chronic pain, you know, certainly there are myths or misconceptions that can hold you back from getting pain relief, okay? You know, people believe certain things about chronic pain and they get depressed. I worked for 7 years in a hospital pain clinic, and I can tell you that a large majority, over 50% of the people that I saw that had chronic pain, suffered from depression, okay? And thirdly, when you're feeling, I'm not saying that it necessarily is true, but many people with chronic pain go to a lot of doctors and they feel like the doctors aren't helping them. They feel like they're batted around by doctors. Doctors, you know, have different personalities, what have you. And so, as a result, they get defensive, you know, and then they go to another doctor and they're already feeling defensive because of all the bad experiences they've had. Okay, and I'm going to give you an added bonus, as I told you. And the added bonus is that I'm going to help you, believe it or not, that if you have any kind of persistent pain, whether it's been going on for a really long time or it's like an acute condition that's not seeming to go away, I'm going to give you something tonight that will help you to start taming your pain today. And what I mean by taming pain is the whole idea of not trying to kill it, because nothing really wants to be killed, rather trying to understand why the pain continues at a level that probably is just too much pain, that, you know, your body doesn't really need that much pain if you're doing the right things to deal with the cause of the pain. And you know, I'm going to teach you some things tonight that will help you to develop a better relationship with your body and take better care of yourself. And that's what I mean by taming. It's like taming a lion, you know. I mean, you know, you gotta like develop a relationship, develop trust, or taming a dog that's wild. You gotta develop a relationship, develop trust, and then develop a program for how you interact with that animal. Okay, same goes for pain. So, no questions for now, okay? We only have like, well, probably 45 minutes, not even, 35 minutes for me to give this lecture, and then I'm going to give you these bonuses where you'll actually have the experience of doing a couple things that I think you'll find very valuable for you. And because we don't have much time, there's no need for questions at this time. And if you have questions, I'll be sitting right in the back over there where Dr. Cummings is sitting, right? Cassidy. Oh, I'm sorry. I was close. I think it was going to say. Dr. Cassidy is sitting back there, and Dr. Cassidy is a friend of mine. He's the person who originally invited me to give this talk that was then connected with Alita Barrios, and so I want to thank Dr. Cassidy. I want to thank Alita Barrios for both of you arranging for me to be here tonight. But I'll be sitting in the back near where Dr. Cassidy is sitting, and any questions that you have, guess what? You can ask them then. And to make it even easier for you, I'm going to hand out a sheet for you right now that you can write your questions down on, so you'll remember them if I don't answer them during the presentation. Let me hand out the sheet.
Do you have any pencils? No.
All right, thanks. Just one sheet. Okay, so you'll have the sheet. It's a front and back, so there's something in the back that we'll go over together in a few minutes. But, you know, that's your question sheet. So if you have any questions, just write them down and you can ask me later. Okay. All right. Everyone agree with that? Sound good? Because normally, I actually do these workshops on managing pain, taming pain, getting pain relief. They're either 1-day or 2-day workshops. So there's a lot of material here, and we're not going to have much time. So I want to cover the material and then give you an opportunity afterwards to ask me in the back, and also I'll give you some information on how I can help you further in the future, if you'd like. Okay? All right. So questions, write them down. My story. So basically, I was a mess, okay? I've suffered from chronic pain for a very long time. It started when I was in graduate school back in the 80s. And, you know, I had severe leg pain. Has anybody heard of sciatica? I had that. It was terrible. And I lied in bed under doctor's orders for 2 weeks. And nothing happened. And then the doctor said, the orthopedist, you know, you need surgery. And then I went and saw this really smart neurosurgeon for that particular era, which was 1983. And he said, you don't need surgery. You need PT, physical therapy. So I went for PT. And guess what? I got better. So life was good. And I got better, but I still always had to watch my back, you know, watch because I learned that I did have some vulnerabilities in my spine to certain conditions that can cause degenerative disc disease, blah, blah, blah. So life goes on, and then I'm struck, T-boned in a bad motor vehicle accident back in 1993. In fact, it was New Year's Eve day. So it was like the New Year's Eve of 1993, December 31st. It was a very cold, icy day in Philadelphia, and my God, I was lucky I was alive. And then after that, I started a whole odyssey going for treatment, and the problem came back again, the leg pain, the neck pain, the back pain, and it got worse, and I went to a couple physical therapists, a couple doctors, different doctors, and one physical therapist, and aquatics therapy made me worse, and it was so bad, and guess what, I ended up having back surgery in 1996. Okay, so now I had back surgery, and I'm supposed to be all better. Well, the back surgery helped me a little bit. It helped me a lot, because my head was bobbing up and down on the floor because leg pain. I wanted to cut my leg off. It was burning me so bad. That took that away, but the scar tissue that resulted from the low back surgery caused me to develop other problems, and I developed a condition called fibromyalgia, which got lots of fatigue involved, and I was in bad shape, and it's hard to walk because I had the crazy symptoms, the sensations from the scarring, and I had to go on disability, short-term disability. I had a very thriving psychology practice, and I couldn't work, but I worked the best I could. Short-term disability turned into long-term disability, and it was a whole odyssey. And then, of course, I settled the disability carrier, and I went back to work. I recovered as best as I could somewhere around 2002. So it took quite a few years out of my life, And, in 2002, I continued to work. I built my practice up again, but I had to be very, very mindful of taking care of myself physically. I couldn't do a lot of things that, other men my age were able to do. Like I stopped playing racquetball, I stopped playing tennis, I stopped playing golf, and, I still continued doing martial arts, although I kept injuring myself because I had some vulnerabilities, and needless to say, I did the best I could. And life was pretty good for quite a while until 2000 and, believe it or not, 2017. My wife had died, my wife of 30 years, she had died in 2014, and I was pretty traumatized by her death. The way she died wasn't pretty. She died by suicide, okay? And I had found her body, blah, blah, blah. It's a terrible thing. She had shot herself, and that's a whole story. It caused me lots of PTSD, and oh my God. And I just continued to work, and I worked at a hospital, at a pain clinic, and I had a private practice, and I was pretty busy, and it was hard. I had taken some time off from work, but I continued. And right about a week before my daughter's wedding, I was breaking up a dog fight in the dog park between I don't have him anymore, I had a Rottweiler, and it was another big dog, a Mastiff of some sort. They had this like battle of the giants, and I broke it up, and guess what? I ended up falling, getting bitten by the other dog, and injuring myself, but I was like a soldier, I just didn't think much of it. I did go to the hospital and get rabies shots, tetanus shots, the whole 9 yards, but I'm like, okay, right? Had a little pain, but it was like, okay, I'm fine. I thought I was Superman. That Saturday night of that week, later that week, is my daughter's wedding, and dumb me, I was one of the guys, like, the young guys were lifting the bride and the groom up on their chairs, and I contributed. I held a leg on the chair, and not my daughter, but my son-in-law, he weighs quite a bit, and this one kid that was holding another leg, he kind of like tripped, and I had to grab that leg as well, and my back went crack, and I, gently would let my son-in-law down. And that night I went home at 3 in the morning after the wedding, and I was like, feeling pretty achy. I put some ice on my back, and I'm like, whatever. And, Mind you, like all these years, I knew I had back vulnerabilities, I had all kinds of conditions, but I was getting things, I didn't take opioids, I was getting things managed by going every maybe once or twice a year at most to get like nerve blocks, outpatient nerve blocks, and they help. So here it is, Sunday morning I wake up and I'm like, oh gee, my back's really hurting me. So I put some ice on it, I go to the gym, I went to the pool, I went to the whirlpool, I'm not thinking much of it. Monday morning I wake up, I can't get out of bed and I can't go to work. And that was the beginning of real pain. I mean, it was like harking back to 1995, 96, 95, 96. I had back surgery in February 96, so right before that, for 2 months, I was in hell. I was back to hell again in the year 2017. I didn't think it would be possible, There's a funny thing about pain, that when you're comfortable, you don't remember how bad the pain was. And when you're in bad pain, you don't remember how comfortable you might have been like last week. Like memory is distorted. So life was bad, and I had to actually stop working. I had to stop working. Once again, 20 years after the first time, short-term disability, long-term disability. Finally, the pain was so bad that I resigned from the position where I was helping people manage their pain. Now, my pain wasn't very well managed because despite all the stuff that I knew about, it just wasn't doing much for me, or I wasn't using it properly, and I was a mess. I got depressed. To make matters worse, I decided to move down to Florida because I was living in the same house where my wife had died by suicide. I raised my kids in that house, bad memories, the kids didn't want to come there, so I go through the whole process of moving to Florida, and now suddenly I'm in Florida in December of 2018, and in my new home, sold my stuff, sold half my belongings, and it was a very tough move, and I get down here and I'm still in pain with my leg and everything like that. I'm getting nerve blocks, they're really not helping. Oh my God, and the doctors are saying to me, you gotta learn to live with your pain, and nobody's really helped me much. So, thought that was bad. Then I developed this autoimmune condition from all the stress that I was in, and I could hardly move. I couldn't even get out of bed. That was in, March of 2019. I was so depressed. I mean, nothing that I knew about as a psychologist was of any value to me. It was basically this is it. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll just die. Maybe I just won't wake up tomorrow. I wasn't actively suicidal, but I have 2 daughters and a grandson, and I'm not even going to go there. Plus, I don't believe in it. My faith wouldn't allow it. But it was I don't want to wake up. I can't get out of bed. That's the tip. That's the basic criterion. The main one for depression. You just don't want to get out of bed in the morning, and at night you feel better because you're going to bed, right? So life was a problem for me, and it was what happened? Well, I started to recognize that I had a lot left in me at the age of 65. I had just gone on Medicare that summer, now I'm 66. And I wanted to continue to work, resume working, practicing as a psychologist and as a hypnotist, clinical hypnotist down here in Florida. Plus I need the income too, it's not going to hurt. And it's very satisfying. Well, what am I going to do? I have to start to create a balanced life for myself. So I started to think about it, and I had written a few different books about pain management, a self-help book, a textbook, blah, 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 And I said to myself, okay, am I going to be able to correct the physical underpinning for all of this pain that I have, like my spine? I can't change the fact that I got, degenerative discs, and I got, curved spine, they call that scoliosis, and I got narrow spaces between the vertebra called stenosis. I can't change that stuff. But what can I do to change my attitude and the way that I deal with life day to day that could change the way that I feel? And I went back to the books. I went back to the books that other people had written, new writings, new research, what have you, And it all basically came down to a piece of wisdom that is, millennia old. And that is that in order to be free, truly free, you have to find a way to not be controlled by what it is that you want to be free from. Like, in other words, back in ancient times, and not so ancient times, people that were slaves, they physically weren't free, but those that were enlightened recognized that nobody, even today, back then 100 years ago, but even today, or more than 100 years ago, 150 years ago, you can't enslave someone's thoughts. We still don't yet have thought police that can actually, we have speech police, but we don't have thought police. So you can still be free by changing your attitude about things. Changing the way that you think, and changing the way you think changes the way that you feel, which changes the way that you act and respond, and so on. So I started to think about it and said to myself, you know what? I better start to do something, because if I don't, I'm not going to last another season. So I recognized that this idea that pain-free or freedom from pain doesn't mean no pain. Pain is part of life. What it means is not being controlled by the pain, which was going on in my life at that point when I was so miserable and so depressed that the pain that I had when I got out of bed in the morning controlled me and made me more miserable and more hopeless because of the way I thought about it. And I started to recognize that my pain, my persistent pain, was my body's way of telling me that I needed to make some adjustments in my life and my habits and so on, because this autoimmune condition that I developed was a result of chronic stress that just built up until the point where it just overflowed. It boiled and it just popped. And today I'm going to share with you a little bit about what I did to become pain-free. Can't share all of it, whatever, because, when I do this stuff, I do pain coaching. I see people, for packages of 4 sessions, and I teach people with chronic pain how to deal with their pain once we evaluate their pain and their condition, and how to make changes that allow them to become pain-free. And I also do retreats, 1-day and 2-day retreats. So we can't do that in the short time that we have tonight. We're going to do a demonstration, though, in a group exercise. Okay? So I'm going to share with you a couple of useful things. So let's quickly look at these 3 destructive myths. I have about 21 of them, but for now we're just going to cover 3 that I think you'll recognize. Myth number 1, to be pain-free means to be without any pain. Okay? Reality. To be pain-free means to not be controlled by pain. Okay? Pain is part of life. We all suffer from pain at times. We don't have to suffer. Pain may be mandatory, but suffering is optional. Okay? Destructive myth number 2. If it's the right treatment, it should eliminate the pain in one treatment. Fact. Chronic pain is complex, and lasting pain relief entails multiple factors. We're human beings. We're complicated. And there are multiple factors that contribute to the suffering associated with persistent pain. Okay? Think about the question, can you eat a whole elephant in one meal? Right? No, of course not, right? Okay. Some of you might have heard of or read the story of the blind man and the elephant, or in the cave. And there were blind men, actually it's blind men and an elephant in a cave, and each man was asked, what is the elephant? What does it feel like? And they were all touching different parts of the elephant. So, one person who was touching the tail described it as like a giant snake or a cobra. Somebody that was touching one of its legs described it as a large redwood tree, right? Somebody that was touching its mouth described it as a giant anteater. Somebody that was touching its ear, it was an African elephant, I believe. So they were talking about it as this weird leaf that, just kind of moves around by itself, So everybody had a different perception of the elephant because they were at a different point on the elephant that they were feeling. Well, chronic pain is more complicated even than describing an elephant. There's so many factors that are involved that cause chronic pain to develop and that have to be addressed when you want to get relief from it. mental, emotional, behavioral, spiritual, social, interpersonal, medical. So, and the last destructive myth that I'm going to cover tonight, destructive myth number 3, is that because you're still in pain despite having seen every doctor known to man, it must be all in your head. How many people have been, heard it implied that maybe, raise your hand, that pain must have a psychological part to it because you're not getting better, How many people have been told that or felt that the person they were going to see for treatment, whether it was a physical therapist or a doctor, was thinking, oh my God, it's all in your head, you got to change your head. Okay, pain is both physical and mental and emotional. So the reality is that most physicians focus on just a tiny part of the elephant. That's a big problem. So you go to a rheumatologist, unless it's a really good rheumatologist, he just focuses on,
The knee.
yeah, or, like you should be in this trial for this new biologic or something, medication therapy pretty much. If you go to a physiatrist, they focus on physical therapy, totally. If you go to a neurologist, they focus on their thing. If you go to a pain doctor, well, most of the time, they make their money from giving nerve blocks, right? Or installing spinal cord stimulators, or nowadays they tend to be rather reluctant to prescribe narcotics, right? So, but if that's what they do, that's all they do. So, you end up going to, this doctor that only knows the back leg of the elephant, and this doctor that only knows the tongue, this one only knows the trunk, but yet you're a whole elephant, you're a whole person. So that becomes a problem because chronic pain is multifactorial, it's multi-dimensional, right? So, we got to deal with the whole person. Tell you what, turn over your sheets. I've seen that. I don't think anybody's written down any questions, which is okay, Maybe I'm answering all of your questions. But in the back of your sheet, there's a daily diary that you can take home and use. And it's called the No More Pain Relief Diary. And basically, if you look at this, it can help you learn the real meaning of what pain of what No More Pain is, okay? So, No More Pain is actually like an acronym. It's an acronym that will help you to come up with some ideas. One of these ideas can help you, if not more than one. So, the N in no stands for notice when or where you're more comfortable, right? So if you notice where you're more comfortable, that could create a light bulb to light up in your mind, and you could say to yourself, why am I more comfortable in this situation than the way I am normally? Is it because I like to go swimming? Is it because I don't have negative thoughts when I'm at the beach? Is it because taking a walk helps my body to release certain chemicals that give me that good feeling that comes from being out in nature and breathing and having some exercise? Is listening to music helping me to not think about my problems? Oh, your back hurts. My leg hurts. It hurts right now. But my hands don't hurt, thank God, and my neck doesn't hurt, and my arms don't hurt. So, you could actually distract yourself by just focusing on your arms if your leg hurts, or focusing on how easy it is for you to breathe, and not paying attention to the leg, So that's not really, it's like fooling yourself, but not really, because what you're doing is you're engaging your capacity to think about things and change what you focus on. All right? Number O, the O in no, is to optimize the control that you do have. Right? So when I was depressed and I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning, I asked myself the question, is it people will say oh, I was so depressed I couldn't get out of bed. You couldn't, or you didn't want to. Say, there are things we choose and there are things we don't choose. When it comes to getting out of bed in the morning, you choose to either stay in bed or not get out of bed. Optimizing control means, I get up in the morning, I feel really stiff, but I'm going to get up and I'm gonna smell the coffee. I'm gonna put it on a timer at night so that it wakes me up to the smell of coffee, which I really like. Go into the kitchen, have that first cup of coffee, take my dog out in the backyard, let him do his business and listen to the birds, watch the ducks in the pond, and then go take a hot shower and feel the warm water, hitting my back. Okay, that's control, right? As opposed to, oh God, I dread getting out of bed, and not thinking about how hard it's going to be to get out of bed. So that's optimizing control. M and more is motivate yourself to engage in positive activities. So like that could be like, well, is it a positive activity to sit at home and mope? No. Is it a positive activity to say I'm going to read for 20 minutes? Yes. There you go. You'll feel better after you do. Guaranteed. Is it a positive activity to take a walk around the block? Yes. You'll feel better after you do. Even though you may not want to do it in the first place, after you do it, you'll feel better that you did. Is it a positive activity to meet a friend for breakfast? Or to take yourself out for breakfast? Yes, it is. You'll feel better after you do it, even though you didn't feel like doing it in the first place. Open mind. That's the O and more. Opening your mind to new possibilities. There's always a possibility of doing something different. Relaxing in some regular way. Look, there's 1,001 ways to relax, It could be lying down listening to music. It could be meditating, doing yoga. It could be self-hypnosis, God forbid. It could be prayer. It could be, just watching a very calming, pleasant television program. My girlfriend happens to like watching The Housewives of LA. I used to say to her, it's like really mindless. But like now, I'm like into it myself because it is mindless, but it's so calming and relaxing. I don't have to think when I watch it, and the women that are on it, they're easy to look at, and they're pleasant, or they're funny. So like, it's just like, it's relaxing. Or watching a nature program. Ever since I was a kid, I used to like to watch animal programs. I love the Animal Planet. Much better than watching the news.
Oh, true.
Evaluating your priorities. That's another thing that's pretty important. Here's a big one. This is a whole thing we do in therapy when I do counseling and coaching. Helping somebody learn how to notice when their thoughts are bad and teach them to interrupt their thoughts. It's called developing a new habit. Avoiding stressful situations that you can avoid. Some you can't, but many we can. We can avoid conflictual situations. Just basically like cutting down on our stress, preventing overload, reducing overload. Individualizing your schedule to make downtime if you need to. When I started recognizing when I was feeling like a mess that I had control and that I did, you hear from a lot of times like, doctors, but physical therapists will often tell you this very well-meaningly, that guess what? They'll say like, don't give in to the pain. You're in pain, just do what you got to do anyway. But it was really a great, it really freed me, and it was a great release when I recognized, not that long ago, probably a little less than a year ago, that I could actually permit myself, I could be easier on myself, I could give myself the right to take some downtime when I was feeling really bad. And during that downtime, I didn't have to condemn myself for doing it. It's like just being more compassionate, being kind with yourself. Hey, you don't have to become totally dependent on other people, but there's nothing wrong with negotiating support from people if you need it. That's what people should be all about. Helping each other and neighbors, relatives, friends, and one of the things that is a big predictor of depression in older people is loneliness. And if we can make social connections, that's a way of developing a support network, and that's really important. That's why we have a support group, right? So no more pain. You can actually use the sheet that I gave you. You can make copies of it. I think we're all in this room. Well, not all of us. I don't want to say, you're not like that. But most of us, many of us in here are old enough, I certainly am, to remember when we used to mimeograph these sheets, right? The smell of that, blue ink. So I was going to say you can mimeograph, you can Xerox, you can photocopy, whatever you want to do, and create more of these sheets so that you can track your daily activities and like, you know, basically rate your level of discomfort from 0 to 10, with 10 being horrible pain, you know, and well, let's not say 0, like we all have some pain, right? 1, from 1 to 10, and you know, pick one of these things. Okay, no more pain. And I have it printed on your sheet, like at the very top, what each letter stands for. So you can, like, you know, go, oh my God, you know, right now I'm going to do something positive for myself. I'm going to optimize the control that I do have. Okay, what can I do for that? Okay, right now I'm talking to a neighbor. He asked me a favor. Maybe he could do me a favor. That's negotiate support from, you know, from others. Oh, I'm feeling really like lazy right now, but this is not good to just like lounge around. I mean, it's okay to be permissive with myself if I'm really in pain, to give myself downtime, but like, you know, I've been doing this for the last week, sitting around in my pajamas until 2 in the afternoon. No, I'm going to get dressed, and I'm going to go out, and I'm just going to go to the mall and walk around for a half hour. I'll feel better by doing it, and sure enough, you'll find that it helps, okay? So, use that sheet. And now we're going to do, this guy's a hypnotist. He's got everybody there under hypnosis, you know. They're doing his bidding, right? So we're going to do a group exercise right now that will allow me to watch you experience some comfort. And, you know, you don't have to do the exercise. You don't have to participate if you don't want to. If you do, that's great. Then just join us. And I'll just kind of lead it, you know. And it's really easy, you know, it's going to be very pleasant. I'm not playing any music or anything like that. I'm just going to talk to you, you know. And it's like this is just a group exercise that will help you to experience the power that your mind, the power of your mind over your body. This is what I want to show you. I want you to experience, okay? So, like I said, feel free to participate or not. All right, so what I'd like to invite you to do, for those of you that would like to participate, is to just get comfortable in your chair. Get comfortable in your chair. Okay, and what I